This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I first want to start off by stating that this is our Volunteer Appreciation Month. If you are one of the volunteers, please make your way to activities at some time during this month to pick up your gift. And then Thelma wants to say a couple words about that also.
So we also, along with the, if you're a volunteer, along with that gift, this month, all residents of Happy Trails or anybody can come in and purchase Happy Trails merchandise for 20% off. So feel free to come in. The other thing that I have to talk about is we are having our end of the season happy hour on April 1st, and it's not a joke. So anyway, and we will have some door prizes to be given away. Chef Peters, he'll be furnishing some food for donation, and we'll have a band. There'll be music. It's all going to be in the courtyard, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you plan to show up on April 1st. It's at everybody can come by 3:30. The band starts at 4. It's outside in the courtyard.
Thank you. We're going to start off the town hall meeting this morning talking about recycling of plastic and glass. At this time, I'd like to call up Bill Powell so he can give us some feedback on that, and then we can open it up for some questions.
Morning. This last week or so, the Budget Committee has recommended to the Board of Directors in a motion to be voted on their next meeting to eliminate recycling at the end of Happy Trails, and all the materials to end up just go into landfill instead. The reason we're doing that is economics. It's a little complicated to give you the exact, to look at the way we're built on trash and recycling up there. So I'll try not to make it too complicated here, but let me just tell you, the container itself, we pay nothing for. The hauling and the dumping, we pay $192 a ton to dump it each time it's dumped. Right now it's dumped twice a week. For the white 6-yard containers, that's the ones lined up along the well, we pay, how do I say this? We pay $70 per container to dump it once a week if there's anything in it or whether it's full. No trucking, no tonnage fee for that. We are currently dumping them twice a week, so we're paying $140 per month for the 8 containers that are there. The red containers are the containers free, and we pay $120 to haul it, and we pay $37 to dump it. So it's $150 a ton to do it. It seldom weighs a ton, so we're always right at the trucking 1-ton fee. The cost of recycling with the recycling container today, we are at peak season. So we are filling that container just shy of full every time we open up there. We're hauling it twice a week, So it is full. There's a little overflow going into the white containers now. But basically, we fill it twice a week full and haul it at peak season. When we get to the summer, we're only going to need to haul it once a week. So somewhere along the line, part of the year will be twice, part of the years will be once. I'm not going to give you the exact breakdown of the months because you don't need to know that. But it costs us between $16,000 and $18,000 to use that to put trash or to recycle in the recycling container and haul it away for a year. $16,000 to $18,000 to haul it. Now, the trash, we know if we stop recycling, we are all going to continue to eat and drink. So therefore, the material has to go someplace. It's not going to leave Happy Trails on its own. If all of the material would go into the in-ground, we would save the entire $16,000 to $18,000 because the in-ground is paid for in your dues and doesn't change. It's a contracted thing. Doesn't change whether there's anything in it or it's full or even a little over full they've agreed to. So anyway, so if we could put 100%. Now, we know that it's easy to put cans, bottles, glass into your in-ground. You get that package from Amazon and the cardboard box is yay by yay by yay. That's not, you're not going to spend the time to cut it up. We know that. Break it down, push it. So something's going on to the end of the street. I don't know what that split will be. We'll never know until we start doing it. So anyways, if everything that was going in the white dumpster now went into the 6 yards, okay, when nobody put anything extra in their in-grounds, the cost is somewhere between $4,500 and $6,000. So I said we could save 16 to 18. If it goes all in the white 6 yards, we have to subtract from that $5,000 or $6,000. So basically, we're going to save anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 to $13,000 a year by not recycling. Now, what happens to it when it leaves here is not our problem, but it does go to the recycling center and landfill out on Grand Avenue. The numbers I'm hearing, and I can't confirm them, are anywhere from 50% to 100% of what's delivered there goes in the landfill anyways, because there is no market for it. There is contamination. It was the wrong product was put in there, whatever. So half of what everything we send up at conservatively still ends up in the landfill anyways. So the few tons we're putting out there is not a significant thing compared to the city of Phoenix and the metro. So with that, we've offered our suggestion, our recommendation to the board is we cease to recycle until it becomes economic. And the day may come back that it's economic, but today it's not. So there's money to be saved, $10,000 to $12,000. Those are the numbers that I have as of this morning, in fact.
Now, and Bill, just a little bit of clarification there. That's just the recycling of the plastic, glass, and cardboard, correct?
Yes, and steel cans. Yeah, those 4 items would only that. Everything else, nothing changes other than it's only going to change what container it goes into. Hopefully your in-ground is the best possible place. The worst possible place, but better than recycling, is in the 6 yards. As soon as the board would vote on it, so it'd be somewhere after the board meeting. We're not going to change. We're still going to accept everything up there that we've been accepting. It's just going to, whether it goes in the long white recycling container or goes into the white flip top ones. We're just going to, that only changes that.
Do we have any other questions in regards to the recycling specifically and what's going on with that? I know we've kind of talked about this on and off for months now, but it's kind of coming to fruition. So
Debbie Cheek, Block 219. Just as an example, for the past 4 weeks, we've tried to avoid taking anything up there just to see what we could handle in the in-ground. We have not had any problem with all the glass, plastic, regular trash, and we get something from Amazon every other day. My neighbors comment on it. Most of them are small boxes. We break them down, we put them in a paper bag and set it next to it, and they take it. And this week, they took a cushion that was this thick, like this thick, that came out of an old golf cart of my dad's. Because I didn't think you guys would take it. But I put it next to it, and they took it.
Our family's been doing the same thing. We stopped recycling in probably January just because we wanted to do the same thing to get specifics. And we had the same result. Everything is fit in the in-ground completely. I did talk to Steve, and if we removed the recycling container, is there enough capacity, unused capacity in the current 6 yards? And his answer was yes. Every single time he'll have enough capacity to handle what was going in there. So there won't be any change, won't be any mess. There shouldn't be people turned around. Also, if there's any overflow from the 6 yards, it can go into the red container because that's going to the same location. So there's no problem with the last hour of the week overflowing into the red container. So there should be no change in it, in what's being taken away and what you're generating.
Thank you, Bill.
Mickey Aston, Lot 13. If people are not using the recycle dumpsters, and since the change in the regular dumpsters, we've been using our in-ground. We haven't had any issues with overflow, or we've had some excess, but they've picked it up. But I am curious, is our in-ground bill going up? Because that's based on tonnage, I believe. And our tonnage has more than doubled because we're not using any of the dumpsters, not for recycling anymore, not for our heavy stuff that we used to take up to help the trash man so they wouldn't be lifting a heavy can. We used to use those as a courtesy, and so we wouldn't have overflow. But I am really curious when we will know what our in-ground rates have changed to with that increase in tonnage.
So there's not any tonnage that's being measured on our in-ground trash cans. So we're actually paying per can. It's at $8.50 per can. But the increase, and we are taking an increase to in-ground trash can, and the reason being is because our statistics in the past and our relations with Parks and Sons have always been that we were being billed on an average trash container because they're not counting it on a bi-weekly basis when they're out here. When they're going and running around, the guys that are running around grabbing your trash aren't paying attention to how many trash cans they are. However, when this surfaced with Parks and Sons and our discussions started early on with the collection facility, this came to fruition with Parks and Sons. And Parks and Sons says, is this number legitimate? Is this number right? We're not trying to take advantage of Happy Trails. However, we would like to be paid fairly for the services that we are providing. At that point in time, we realized that our numbers that we had been paying Parks and Sons were based off of some very old statistics, meaning in our summer months, we were paying for 400 trash cans, when the reality is at this point in our life that we have more than 400 that are being picked up in the summer months. So that did increase within our budget. So we did have a small increase. I believe it came to, Bill might be able to speak to that. I want to say, without having the numbers in front of me, the increase came to about $30,000 per year in in-ground trash can, because what we were paying them was so insignificant for what they were doing. So they're not billing us on the tonnage, nor are they billing us on the tonnage for the smaller white containers that we had at the collection facility, or the white containers that we had at NC1, NC2, those locations before. Those are all on a monthly rate. So you could fill them with rocks and they're being billed on a monthly rate, because whatever's being put into the trash truck that's driving down and being, they're not weighing any of that items. So everything that's being weighed is being weighed from the scales on the roll-off containers, the two large red containers, the large white recycling container, but our in-ground trash and our 6-yard containers are all on a monthly basis no matter what. So the more we can put into our in-ground containers, the more we can save that trash location at the end of the boulevard. Brad's coming up right behind you there.
Jerry Lot 1121. My neighbor moving out put like 15 of those, put like 15 of those big black hefty bags out in front of their place when they were moving. And those guys running up and down the street had to stop and run it up to the truck with all of that. You know, that's going to cause an increase if people don't use the dumpsters. No?
So Parks and Sons has said, and we asked them that specifically, because this was a concern earlier on, is like, we'll accept items that are placed besides the trash container, the in-ground trash container. And we asked them, I said, at what point in time is that, would you call that excessive? You know, if we have somebody on a regular basis, that's 20 bags. And the report back to us is that they said, if they have an individual that is in their opinion, providing excessive trash to the in-ground container and around the in-ground container, they will address it with us individually so that we can have a conversation with that individual. At this time, they have not claimed that has been an issue.
Also, if you have large items, you can call them and you can set it out by your trash and they will pick it up. Now that you would be charged for. But other than that, we shouldn't get extra charges unless it's being abused. Any other questions?
Mary Jo Methune, 1621. You were talking about the rocks. Hopefully nobody will think they
I
can
hope
fill
not.
those containers.
No, let me retract that. No rocks in the containers,
Right.
please.
My question is, what has the savings been now? What has the savings been now that you have regulated everything and you should have a great savings
Bill's got
now?
them. We'll let Bill speak to that from the budget committee here.
As of last night and this morning, the numbers are, because I just did, I get to look at the bill each month, which comes in, the 4th, 5th, 6th of the month for the previous month. And what I've been doing is I've been taking out the villas because they they have their own trash system over there because of they don't have in-ground. So the numbers I have are slightly different than what anybody will show anyplace. I also Parks doesn't often cut it off exactly at the end of the month. There's usually a day or two on either side of it. So I have to adjust the billing a little bit. But right now, it appears that Mike has dropped. We used to have the trash picked up at the end of the road 3 times a week. And with the containers the way we're going, and with the changes of volume of not getting some of the great big stuff down there, getting boxes broken down, we've been able to go to 2 trips a week. And that is running right at about a $1,500, $1,700 a month savings. So that's about $18,000 a year savings so far in our trash. Now it's only 1 month of data because the first month we kept it at 3. It's only the month of February that we were able to go to 2. And I just talked to Steve this morning, and he's going to keep an eye on it. And as summer rolls in here, he's going to tell Mike, I need to go to 1. And that'll be another $5,000 or $6,000 a year savings. So we're on target for as much as a $20,000 a year savings. Ma'am.
That does not include what we have to pay for our employee to be down there.
That is correct. That is correct. We have requested that number, and Becca is getting that number together. Yes, there has been a cost for that. Yes.
Mickey Aston again, lot 13. It was my understanding that the employees were being paid to clean up the dumpster area anyway, and that their time was now being allocated to monitor the dumping so that they wouldn't have to spend the time. So it was kind of a wash is what I was told. And there's also subsidized by volunteers. If the paid employees are having to put more time into monitoring the dumping as opposed to cleaning up the dumping, that would be something I'd like to know. Also, Bill mentioned that the villas are different because they don't have in-ground trash cans. I understand that. but that's still part of our overall bill. So it's like we need to have 2 reports without the villas, and then with the rest of the resort subsidizing and having to control or handle part of that villa cost.
Well, it's not only the villa dumpsters are equal to our in-grounds. That's the difference. So they just happen to have one big container or three, actually there's three yards over there. So yeah, I mean, obviously the monthly financial report shows the totality of things. We're looking at what is the cost of the trash on the end of the street.
Correct. I'm just saying we don't need to ignore the villas.
Oh,
and
we don't,
say-
no.
and say they're not included in our cost because.
No, they're definitely included in the cost, but they're like say, our in-ground is a separate line item on the budget. And so we don't have a third line item for that. So they are in with the container trash, but for the analysis of what we're doing on the end of the street, because that doesn't change down there as far as we haven't asked them to stop doing things or start doing things down there.
And if I'm incorrect about the employees having been paid to clean up the area, and then now the employees are being paid to monitor the area, if that's not accurate, let me know.
Okay, so Mickey, what we did is we had to hire a part-time employee, his name is Steve, to go to work down there 3 days a week during hours of operation. He makes sure that everyone that's going in there it should be in there. And then we have volunteers, usually 2 to 3 volunteers during the shifts. So we did have to hire a part-time employee for that position. No, correct.
Mary Jo Methune, 1621. Do you have, when did this start? When did we actually start the new?
Yeah, it was December 19th that we started the collection facility at the end of the boulevard. That's the day that everything was moved down to that location and it was officially open.
Okay. Can you compare that to last year, that month? In other words, when I'm hearing only 18,000, I'm shocked by that. I was expecting a lot more savings than that. And I still believe there will be, because when the snowbirds come back next year and we still have this, we're not going to have all that renovation going into our dumpsters. So in my opinion, I think you've saved much more than that if you compare that to last year's budget.
What I did is I gathered up September, October, and November, and months that were back basic for the baseline, and we're comparing to those 3 months. December we take out of it because that was a split month, although it was mostly background baseline also because it was the 19th, and the time we put holidays in there was only a handful of pickups that occurred after that. So basically, we're looking at the 4 months, which are also picking up. It's hard to go back and look at any one given month or two because our population changes so quickly and such. So by using September, October, November, that was pretty much in the ramp up, and we're comparing it to peak, and we'll catch the backside. This trial goes through June. We said a 6-month trial. That's June. So I'll see the bill in July. By the time the report gets out, it's going to be end of July, early August. So anyways, but yeah, we're taking into account that.
Okay. Would you consider, if you have a great savings, to continue to recycle and pay that expense? Because you have to consider your environment. We've got to really consider that and not just, let's just throw it in the garbage.
Well, as I said, we're looking at the financial side of things, but over 50%, probably closer to 60 or 70, is not saving the planet anyways. It's still going into landfill because that's what is going on out at the recycling center. There is no market for steel cans west of the Mississippi River at all, and the cardboard is not going to China like it used to. So not much market. So whenever recycling becomes economic, our recommendation will be to continue it. but it's
All right.
not economic.
That's good to hear.
Well, the motion is to start.
Surprise, City of Surprise has started recycling again. You are aware of that, of course.
We're aware that they started picking it up.
Yes. Oh. Okay, well, I don't know that. I guess you do. You've inquired. Okay. All right, so that's a fact then. Well, and they don't want them to get out of the habit of not recycling. And when you say it's just Happy Trails, each individual impacts this earth tremendously, tremendously. And always keep that in mind. You do impact what occurs in this environment.
Hi, Donna at 379. So in the City of Surprise, they did stop recycling. Then they started it, but like at my daughter's house who has a recycling bin and a regular bin, they actually dump it in the same exact truck. So just so you know that that's exactly what happens to it. It does not get recycled. It goes to the dump. But people complained about the recycling. So they said, okay, start throwing in the recycling, but only one truck goes down the street and picks up both bins. So until they start recycling like they did when I was younger, it's not going to do us any good.
No, I agree, Donna. I'm technically in El Mirage, and I never lost my recycling services. They maintained the recycling services, but since City of Surprise stopped recycling, they started putting it in the same truck. So every day I have 2 trash cans now that I get to utilize as just general trash, which is nice because they haven't taken that service away from me, but ultimately it's going in the exact same truck.
Can I speak? One thing, tonnage in the white dumpsters, red dumpsters, I'd like Bill to recite. Would that make a difference if we could lower that?
No, the 6 yards are not based on tonnage at all. They are strictly, we pay for, have the container there per month and it's dumped, whether there's anything in it or.
Okay. Why I was asking that is a lot of times paving materials, if we could have a separate way, they're very heavy, and I've seen half a pickup load of them. And then make sure that the metal goes in the metal, and maybe we could get even more out of the metal than what we've been getting, because good metal in the white dumpsters or the red dumpsters, in the pavers, things like that, could we find another source to get rid of those?
Well, the red container is the best place for heavy things for pavers, et cetera. We do pay by the ton. We only pay $37 a ton. And that container very seldom goes to the dump at more than 1 ton. So there's plenty of room and we get billed for 1 ton minimum on that. So if the red container, just because it's full of brush and it weighs a half a ton, we get paid, we get billed for a ton. That's the way the county billing system is. So pavers and heavy stuff can go in the reds and such. But yes, any metal, any good iron, aluminum, whatever metals goes in there. We actually get paid a small amount for what's in the scrap container, the metal container. It typically runs $400 or $500 a month is all. It's not a lot, but it's avoidance. It's tonnage that we didn't pay to have dumped. So it is avoidance, and so we do make a little bit. It covers the truck most months.
Right. It versus instead of paying for the metal and things like that going out, we'll get a little teeny bit back. Yeah. That changes the figures quite a lot, I would think. And I've witnessed a lot of times stuff is getting put in the white dumpsters and the red ones. that should be put in the metal.
Yeah, I-
Or like you say, if we could find a way to get rid of the, sometimes pavers and things like that, I don't know if there would be another source. I know some of these might be a way of, because that would be clean landfill.
Yeah,
You're
that,
talking
that
about
goes,
environmental.
well, it goes in, it just goes to general landfill. There's no separation for anything like that. It just goes to the general hole and such. Yeah, the stuff goes in for the metal container as long as I spent my entire life melting iron. So I know, and working in through scrap yards. They're going to take that metal container and they're going to dump it on the ground. They'll sort out the aluminum the best they can real quickly. The rest of it's going to go into a shredder. And that shredder will take a whole Volkswagen and in 45 seconds turn it into a handful of baseballs. And that's literally what happens. And there's 6,000 horsepower behind some of those. And that same one's downtown here. And it goes in a whoosh, it's gone. But then they have all kinds of separation in any of the plastics, any of the metal, any fluff from the seats of cars, all separates out automatically. In fact, I don't have people doing it, just automatically sorts it all out. So if you throw away a pressure washer that's got plastic wheels on it, that machine doesn't even care. Whoosh, it's gone, and then it sorts it all out. So a certain amount of non-metallic in it, as long as it's mostly metallic or heads to be the 50% range, that machine don't care.
Buffalo 496. Maybe some of you saw this, but some 4 or 5 years ago, I think it's Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes. She was in this huge warehouse in California that was a recycle warehouse. There was huge bundles of I call the cotton bundles that are 8 by 4 by 4, big square bundles. And this warehouse was full of them. And she said, she's talking to the manager there, and she says, "What gets recycled? What is all this?" And he said, "Maybe 10%. Okay. He said, they used to do a lot more when China was buying all our recycles. And the theory, now probably somebody knows for sure, but China was building their islands out in the China Sea. And so they were taking all that stuff and dumping it in the ocean. And that's why we see all the material, part of why we see all the material, although they would like you to believe that all the California and New York and the Florida people do that all, but that's not true, putting that all in the ocean. The China was a big part of that. So we all have the right intentions and want to recycle, but we're spending money on something that is not being done. We're just pouring it down the drain as far as I'm concerned. And like Bill said, and thank you, Bill, for all your work that you've done on this and all you do with the budget. But until it changes, until there's something more that we can do with recycling, I think it's a waste of money.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to our next category. And we're going to talk about, we've had, as of January 15th, we had some rule changes, and one of them had to do with flags. So we're going to address that a little bit because we did have some compliance issues on that.
Flags. I remember I stood here, I don't know, what election year was it? We talked about flags. It's always been something about flags. But where we are today is we've noticed some communication in regards to social media, and we keep an eye on social media. However, we never respond on social media per our policies. But we want to bring that to the surface because, we're working with each other here, management and the board and all of our residents. And there's a little bit of a misconception or maybe a misunderstanding in regards to some of the rules. One of them specifically that was brought up on social media was the flags. Now, we're not really talking political flags at this point in time, even though our rules and regulations will address political flags specifically. But what happened in this rule change was a regulation that spoke to directly prohibiting flags other than what cannot be prohibited per state statute. So per Arizona state statute, there's a list, I want to say there are about 30 flags or so that are permitted per statute that any homeowner association cannot regulate per law. So if you fly that flag on your flagpole, that is permitted, right? In this change to the rules and regulations, the perception was that only those permitted flags per statute would be permitted to be flown on a flagpole. Now, there's also an area within our governing documents now that speaks to the personal signs and banners. And this is where we got into a little bit of a dispute in what is a banner, what is a garden flag, and then we had some initial violations that went out for these flags. Now, most of them are Seahawks or whatever it may, a sports team, or we had, I believe there was one that was an Irish flag out. And it got us to a point where we've had a little bit of feedback and discussion from our residents of what's the intent here? And that communication, and what's the definition of a banner, what's the definition, and what's the size of a garden flag, and we, there's some clarification there, of course. We have asked at this point in time that the violations that we had sent out in regards to flags, we're communicating with those folks and communicating with our board in regards to intent of that rule. And that's the status of that right now. Now, do we need to go into this discussion, real in depth? No, I think that we had this discussion on a level when we looked at these rules and regulations. This was brought up in December. This was brought up in January when we had these revisions done. And I think that a lot of the folks that are in this room today probably had a decent understanding of that document. But I think that inadvertently, some folks throughout the resort didn't have a good understanding of that document when that document was established. And I think that has caused a little bit of rift on the side of management of understanding where someone else is coming from and the perception of someone else. So we've had some feedback from that. And I will tell you at this point in time, I know you've probably seen the 80, 90, 100, comments on Facebook, and a lot of frustration and anger and things behind that. And what I'm telling you here is that we're addressing individual issues, and we're listening to our residents, and we're bringing it in front of the board of directors individually. If we have a situation, each individual flag's a little bit different. Each individual banner's a little bit different. Now we're getting into a situation where, folks are saying that the pole on the house, because it's not a flag pole that's mounted in the yard, like Mary Jo's, but it's an actual bar that comes off the side of the, I don't know what you would refer, a flag. Correct. Freestanding flagpole versus a flagpole that's mounted to your structure. So then we're getting some banners that have poles on them and things like that. And we're getting a little bit of dispute, like, well, this is a banner, this is a flag. So we're trying to address that issue, and we're looking at that as the challenge behind a new rule always is going to be understanding that new rule. And our rules, our governing documents, our rules and regulations, design guidelines, they change. The things throughout the resort, we evolve, we see new issues, we have to address new issues. And I think that that's where the intent behind this came from. We know initially when we talked about a lot of these problems, it was due to a lot of political flags, and we lacked a lot of clarity within our governing documents to try to regulate those flags. And it became quite the political issue within the resort. Inadvertently, I think that we're to where we are now, and we really need to discuss that with the individuals. So what I will ask of you folks is, if you did receive something in regards to a flag, please, please, please do not hesitate to come into this office and sit down with us and have a conversation. We're not out there to try to get you. We know that your Seahawks flag isn't the most ugly looking thing in the world. I don't have anything against the Seahawks. Brad might, but I don't. And it's just a matter of having that communication. If there is a dispute, we have channels to communicate with the board. We have channels to get that clarification from the board, and we are addressing those channels. So if there is a concern there, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know what your concerns are, so we can go from there.
I hate for management to always have to be the end of the spear. The flags, okay. I'm a veteran also, and I've heard stuff out there. I get it. We fight for freedom. We want to be able to fly what we want to fly. Consolation is, or the problem is, we live in an association. So when the board went ahead and made this rule, it was decided upon that the board would allow flags on a flagpole, 45 degree off your house, or a freestanding flagpole to be only those flags that Arizona State says you cannot stop them from flying. That was to help take out biased subjectivity. But we thought that if we allowed people to have garden flags, and we all know what they are, you can say you know what they are, they're 13 by 18, they're real simple, that you could fly your other flags on a garden flag. I'm a Go Pack Go girl. Don't care for the bear so much, but you get my point, okay? So I could have a garden flag out there that would be Go Pack Go. As opposed to on the freestanding flag, I would only have one of the 30 authorized flags that are allowed by Arizona State. It was thought that what if somebody has a Philadelphia Eagles flag and they want to fly it in their back personal area? They kind of called it a banner. Maybe that was bad on us to say that. But we were trying to give and mitigate options for residents to have a little of their own personal injection, if you will, about what they want to fly. That was the intent. But anything on a flagpole or freestanding flagpole was to be followed by Arizona State statutes. If you want to talk banner poles, they're not authorized and they are specific. A banner pole actually has an arm that comes out that holds the banner and an arm on the bottom that holds the banner. Banner poles at this time are not authorized, but we do have freestanding flagpole and the 45-degree flagpole. That was the intent. Follow that. Please understand, we're not stepping on your rights or your freedom of speech. Remember, my rights end when they infringe on your rights. That's how it is with an association.
Debbie Cheek, Lot 219. I'd like a little clarification. What you're talking about is flagpoles on your house or in the ground. So what we put on our cars and our golf carts is none of your business, correct?
The answer to that is on your property, no. But on common area property and town center parking lot per statute, the association can take action.
And you're
So-
talking about flags.
Correct.
Now, if I have bumper stickers all across the back that say vote Trump, you can't tell me not to do that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, second thing, when you talk banners and signs, we just put an A-frame sign out in front of our house today or yesterday advertising our block party Friday. It's not a banner,
I think it would fall in the category of a sign at that point in time.
so that's okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Marilyn Klein, 392. What about these great big flags that they are flying from a bicycle, lay down bicycle? All those and the golf carts.
It's same as vehicles. If it comes down to a bicycle, a golf cart, or a vehicle, a transportation vehicle, it can be on the vehicle. If we had an issue before that, and hypothetically speaking, if a political flag is on a golf cart or on a vehicle in the town center, we can take action. The association can take action for that political item. I'm saying political because I can't imagine, there has to be some common sense here. I can't imagine that we're going to go after you for a Seahawks flag on your golf cart in town center parking lot. But if you have an offensive political flag that is flown from the back of your golf cart in town center parking lot, the association has the right to take action on such political item. So it's
if it's not political, it's
permitted.
They can fly it. Okay.
Mickey Aston, Lot 13. I don't believe I have any flags, banners, signage, other than a little Happy Trails sign in my garden out front. But I am seeing signage, hard material, not a banner, not a flag. I am seeing signage that is sports and I believe political related to, and I apologize if I offend anybody, but Israel throughout the park. So signage is now going to take the place of a flying banner and a flying flag. I'm thinking.
The good news is there's a lot of clarity in statute behind political signage. There's not a whole lot of language in statute behind political flags. So we have regulations in place in regards to political signage, and it's clear. But the flags per statute was never really clear, and that's what got us to where we are today within our rules and regulations.
And I remember something about the political signage as far as size, time of year, before an election, after an election, and a total yardage or a total area.
That is correct.
But I am seeing something about supporting Israel. Now, I'm not saying I'm for or against that, but when people start saying they want to support something else, or they want to support a team, or they want to support a U.S. politician, I think we're going to get into policing signage.
Right. And you're probably right there, Mickey. I think we probably are.
Debbie Cheek, what I understand about the law when it comes to political signs is that it's an attempt to influence somebody's vote towards one candidate or one party over another. A sign that says I support Israel does not do that. A sign that says a rainbow flag does not do that. Totally different.
I agree, and that's where we step into a category within our governing documents that says the association reserves the right to request the removal of any offensive sign. And I think that's the challenge here, is that what do you deem offensive? And we had this conversation many years ago during the political times, presidential elections and whatnot, is what is offensive to you may not be offensive to someone else. And unfortunately, it's the association's burden to determine that with the board of directors. And it's hard in some occasions to really determine what's offensive to someone. But we have to address those items individually. You know, when we go throughout and see, you know, there's a lot of creativity out there. You know, you see a lot of different things. I remember that during the elections, I had a situation where somebody had posted something about Willie Nelson for president. And it was an issue because it was such a political time in our lives that somebody was upset about this situation. And that's really the challenge. It puts us up against a wall. It's like, well, what rights does the association have to request that they remove the Willie Nelson for president? Willie Nelson isn't even running for president. You know, it's just a joke. But it was offensive to someone. And that is the challenge behind association management and rules and regulations and enforcement within an association. So it's going to be with challenges, of course, but I think that we have to proceed in that direction and make sure that we're doing our absolute best to try to maintain that within the resort and you know, control that within the resort so that we're a united group. We are a united community that needs to work together, and I think that that's essentially where we're at. We have a few here and there, but as we grow into our election year, I presume we might see some more and more that decides to pop up that we're going to have to address.
Okay, any more questions? If not, we'd like to move on. Okay, right now, we're gonna get some updates on some things that are going around in the community. The Villa pool heater, again, we apologize for the pool heater being down for so long. We ordered a heater. It was supposed to be delivered on Monday. There was a delivery on Monday. Unfortunately, it wasn't the heater. It was some kind of art deco. They gave us, when they picked it up at the warehouse, they picked up the wrong item. We got someone else's item, and someone has our pool heater somewhere. So they are looking into it, trying to track down our pool heater. Again, we do apologize for the delay in getting that heater. We had no control. We didn't know until the package was delivered what it was. We were hoping it was our heater, and if it was, it would have been installed on Tuesday. It said it was a pool heater, but when you opened it, it was definitely was not a pool heater. So that's the update on the pool heater for the villas. I'm gonna let Mike give an update on the roofing project.
So at our last board meeting, I'm sure a lot of you folks recall Phoenix Roofing being on site to discuss our roofing project and where we stand with this roofing project. At that time, Phoenix Roofing gave us an estimated timeline of 6 weeks for completion. At this moment, we are No, 6 weeks for completion is what we were looking at with them. So where we stand today is that we intend and they intend to meet that guideline. They are intending to have metal on site as of yesterday, 10 days. So 9 days today to have metal on the property here. Phoenix Roofing will be on site again today. This afternoon, I have another walkthrough with them, just finalize some stuff, get everything situated. So we're in motion there, and we will continue to stay in motion with heavy pressure on this situation. So not a whole lot to discuss there. I don't know, we can dig into this further and really have that conversation. I think we're all frustrated, but we are putting the pressure on Phoenix Roofing, and I will assure you that we will not let up. If we need to, we will get involvement from the Register of Contractors, and we will get involvement from the association's legal representation if needed. We are not going to sit on this situation like we did in the past for roofing projects that were not completed. This will proceed in one direction or another, and we will have something happen very, very soon. So I'm sure you will be seeing some metal being delivered into the town center. We're going to have some equipment around. They're going to bring a bender onto the property. We're going to be storing it in the far west end of the parking lot so that it's kind of out of the way, and we will be coordinating all of that. So you guys will see me running around the rooftops and around the town center more than usual, and we'll be having some metal go down here shortly. So that's for this building here, town center building, and in C1. So those should be completed, and we can proceed forward with our roofing projects. So that's just a brief update there on the roofing update. What we did see at a BGM level yesterday, right? Yesterday we had a special BGM meeting specifically to review our bids from our asphalt. So we received 3 bids on asphalt, and all 3 of those bids, we were so ecstatic to hear, are under budget. So those are on schedule to go in front of the board of directors this next Thursday at our board meeting on the 14th. And we're really excited to proceed into what we hope to be the final phase of asphalt. Not to include just our general maintenance to our asphalt, but reconstruction to asphalt. So that is really exciting. We're really proud to announce that. We're really proud to move forward with this project. What I will tell you is that on the table right now, what that would consist of, that is going to be the reconstruction of all of package 4 from Dale Evans. From Dale Evans on Tumbleweed, we did all the way around Pat Brady a year ago. So we're going to do all the internal streets to package 4. We have some corrections to be made on Trigger, some drainage issues that needed to be taken care of that were from 2021, I believe. We have some drainage concerns that needed to be addressed from the same year on Wrangler. And then we have the entrance to the ranch. We're also looking at paving the area that goes to South Storage from the ranch entrance, because right now it's all just kind of dirt and gravel. And that's kind of a nuisance for a lot of those folks in that area that are taking all that dirt and dust from the golfers shooting across that area. So that's going to be that. We're all looking at seal coating and they do a crack seal on the curb, the gutter side of it. So they do a crack seal on the curb and then a seal coat of all of package 9, which we did in 2023. So that'll be sealed up and done nice, and we'll be able to proceed into our final year of just maintenance after this and get everything situated. We have package 6 in 2025. We're looking at doing a crack seal and a seal coat. It's in pretty rough condition considering the circumstances. I want to say it was done at least 6 or 7 years ago, and it is degrading a bit. We do need to bring some attention to package 6. It is definitely a concern on a maintenance item, so that's on schedule as well. But we're ecstatic to say that we're looking forward to getting another summer of asphalt, hopefully the last big one for 20 to 30 years before we have to tear out some more asphalt and do it all again. So we're ecstatic about that. I'm really excited. I'm really proud of all the work that was done by our BGM committee. Thank you to all of them for helping out with that. And we'll have that on the agenda for the board of directors next week.
Brad, are there any, I can't read that, it's too far.
Yeah, there's a couple. The first one is back to the trash. I think we answered it already, but the question is, how soon after all recycling is stopped will our in-ground go up in price? I believe that was answered with It won't, right? Okay. The last one is, was the second pool heater purchased from a local good company or off the internet?
Well, I mean, everything's off the internet these days, but more or less, it was purchased directly through manufacturer. The trouble is that the manufacturer, of course, doesn't have their own warehouse. Go figure. So they have a warehouse that is, I would assume, I don't know, it's in New York. I've never visited, but they have a large warehouse that they pay this provider to ship their items. But obviously, this provider ships a lot of different items, including decorative art. And whoever dropped the ball within that warehouse clearly is the issue. So when we called the manufacturer of the pool heater, they said, well, what'd you get? And we said, well, it's a big chunk of metal. So we sent them photos. And of course, at that point in time, the manufacturer said, well, that's not a pool heater. We know that's not a pool heater. It's not going to work. But they had no idea what the product we did receive was. So that was the challenge that we're dealing with. The manufacturer wasn't the issue. It's the shipper or the warehouse that was the mistake. Correct. So the story exactly is Al got a call, our maintenance supervisor, on Monday about 5 o'clock that our pool heater was here. And he ran from his house over to Happy Trail so fast to get that pool heater because we've been waiting for it. And when the driver pulled down to the car wash area, oh, Dave's going to pull up a picture of it, isn't he? We pulled down to the car wash area. The driver said, what is this thing? And Al said, I hope this is a pool heater. He said, this doesn't look like a pool heater. So this is the decorative art on the camera that we got. From what we understand, it's a priceless piece of art. $20,000 worth of decorative art that we received instead of a pool heater. So the good news is we have a lot of equity to hold on to here to make sure we get a pool heater. The frustration is that pool is still cold, and it's not fair. The guys really worked hard to try to get the existing heater up and working. Dave did some soldering on some of the copper, and unfortunately, the heater that we had from Raypak was, we believe, was such a default that it blew out in another spot, and it's just not going to function. So they worked hard yesterday trying to get the existing heater up and running. I know a lot of the villa owners were watching us at the new one. Unfortunately, it wasn't, and this is what we got for the time being. We will push to get this taken care of as soon as possible. What else you got there, Brad?
Oh, that was it for the questions on the chat, but I think we got one more here.
Mickey Aston, Lot 13 again. This is having to do with the asphalt projects. Mike, you and I have talked about the rough condition of Happy Trails Boulevard between Dale Evans and Roy Rogers. And you said that you had brought it to the attention of the board and they did not want to deal with it. Is there a possibility of putting that back on the agenda and smoothing out that road? It is horrible.
So I think now to just reiterate, not wanting to deal with it, I don't know if that was the exact word, but I think that the intent is when we had that project done, I know that I was involved in it to some extent. I believe I was still in the DRC office at the time, but I remember that there was some concern about subgrading underneath that existing asphalt, what we applied down at that time. The concern is that when this is what I was told, not by the board, but by the vendor at that point in time, was that they weren't responsible for it because we did not ask them to do any additional grading beyond what the project scope was. So that's where we led even the same situation with Trigger and Wrangler. That was the same exact year that we had asphalt projects done. It wasn't the asphalt provider that we've worked with the last 2 years, but we had a product that was applied that we felt we had a couple issues with. And the problem behind asphalt reconstruction is that, you're getting what you pay for. So we ended up doing a project. We didn't do any incredible subgrading at that time. I can't speak to the overseeing of that project at that point in time, but we were weighing, of course, what issues we have. Now, of course, the Trigger area and the Wrangler area, it's a detriment to the asphalt because it's holding a tremendous amount of water. We know that that's going to degrade the asphalt, and we have to do something. The Boulevard area, it's holding water in some areas, but it's not exceeding code. where they can have a 1/4 of an inch for 24 hours, right? And that's what they're saying. Since we're such flat land here, we've got bird bathing in some occasions, even in town center parking lot, where we try to push water out of this area and inadvertently make water stand in this area because our grade isn't existing. But what you're talking about is how rough the golf cart lane is specifically on
No,
Happy
the auto
Trails.
lane.
The auto lane on
Because I don't
Happy
drive in
Trails.
the golf cart lane anymore. I drive in the auto lane on
The
my
auto-
golf cart.
Fair enough. So the auto lane heading towards the gate primarily is where the majority of the rough spots are. And at this point in time, I don't know that you're looking at milling up an entire area. You have to weigh those. Is it worth us spending an astronomical amount of money to dig that up and do it again until it's needed? You know, the road itself is maintained in decent shape. The asphalt has not been degraded and it's okay. But the roughness, I think that is ultimately the answer we're going to have to deal with right this moment.
I just was asking if it could be put on the agenda for the future.
We can discuss it on a BGM level, absolutely.
Okay. And I don't know what your wording was to me about the board, but it wasn't going to be dealt with at the time.
Fair enough.
That's why I don't like verbal conversations.
Fair enough.
But we've had, and if I could change this topic, I don't know if you guys are coming to this, the air conditioning unit in the building that houses the Stitchery Club, ceramics, lapidary, arts and crafts, went out last July. I was told at the time it was a compressor that we needed. I was also told by John HVAC, I don't know if he's still an employee, that it was not only a compressor, a condenser also was supposed to be coming in. And we had a conversation by email a month ago. Then you said the air diverter or something. Handler. What you were going to talk to the company. Can we find out if that's going to be repaired before we hit 120 again, like last July when it went out?
It will be. Yes. I talked to Mo when we had that conversation. Mo's from Ambition Mechanical. That was the vendor that did that work for us. The issue that we had initially was we had a compressor and we have a handler. Now, of course, we bought the package of that goes with each other. The compressor was bad on the rooftop. That was what was initially replaced. What we did was the handler wasn't available from, go figure, from the vendor for many, many, many months. So we knew that the handler that we had internally would work, and it was working with the compressor, the new compressor. The compressor was the main point that failed. So we have the service to that area, but we know that in conjunction with the new compressor, the handler has to be installed. When I talked to Mo, he told me that we were on par for schedule. And we should have that done very, very soon. I need to follow up with Mo and get with him and get a specific date because it needs to happen before it's hot.
Yeah, and we're getting there. And I was going to bring it to the attention of the board by email, but there's board members here. So I want it back on the agenda so that we don't have computerized equipment again.
No, I agree.
Getting down.
I agree. And it's not a matter of not being paid for. It's paid for. You know, the association paid the vendor. I mean, he hasn't been paid for the handler, installing the handler, of course, but he's been paid for the compressor portion. So contractually, it's covered under the board. It's just a matter of getting it done.
Seems like we have a lot of trouble getting
vendors
we do. And contractors to complete their projects.
Okay, that's what we have on our agenda. We have about another 10 minutes, so if anyone has any questions, we have one right there.
Brian Souders, Lot 38. Will front steps be introduced to the community between now and the end of April? If not, if it's introduced while a big percentage of us are gone, how will we get trained on using that if it's introduced later in the year?
So we understand the timeline situation here, and we understand what okay, so a quick explanation of Front Steps. Front Steps is a website that would ultimately replace Neighbor Network, Enumerate Engage, which it's called nowadays. But where we're at right this moment is not where we anticipated to be, and I'll take that on me, of course, is that we had a busy season, and the reality is that we just didn't get as far with Front Steps as we anticipated. We were hoping to get Front Steps running by the end of this month. And we've made some serious strides in what exactly our setup is. But we've also found that there's a certain amount of restrictions that Front Step has in different categories that we currently are using under. I'm just going to call it Neighbor Network, because Enumer Engage doesn't ever go with me. But under Neighbor Network that we're currently using, so we're kind of trying to dot all our I's and cross our T's before we jump into bed with something, even though we're not paying for Front Steps. It's a free service to us through HomeCo. It's a website that's utilized for the engagement of the community. So all your documents, all your general information, as well as an access port to paying your bills. So like your dues. So we understand that there's a lot of it that's cut and dry and easy, and then there's a lot of it that's not so cut and dry and easy. And we want to make sure that we're not inadvertently taking something away from our residents that they're currently doing and using within our current program. So that's where we're at right this moment. We've been working with Communications Committee and some of our either neighboring associations, one of them that's in Show Low, one of them that's next door to us, that are currently using this program to work through some of these issues and concerns, even as simple as ticket sales. It goes through a third-party company, which has to link to this site, So it's the internals of a website, and I think that's the challenge behind it. We really want to make sure we're solid before we push that out to everyone. But I think that, I don't want to speak for the board, but I think that it would behoove us all, and I said this directly to the board, to not rush this too much, in the sense that in the middle of summer, we're just going to say, yeah, we're done with Enumer Engage, and here's Front Steps, without any major training opportunities. We've talked about this in depth with the Communications Committee and what those training opportunities will be. There's some tremendous platforms on Front Steps that has internal training programs, which is great. So we can start getting some of that out there. But I think we can't really eliminate Enumerate or Neighbor Network until we get up to par with Front Steps. Unfortunately, it's been slower than I would have liked. I would have liked to had so much more time to spend on that side of the internals with the Communications Committee. It just didn't happen.
Once we do start the training, we will be doing group trainings in this type of a setting here, and we will also do one-on-one trainings for people that cannot attend the group trainings. And we will also record the trainings, so that will help some.
I'd like to address the tables that are out on the sidewalk by the chuck wagon that are blocking access to the bridge. It has been an ongoing issue with the disabled and with people trying to get to the bathrooms from Lapidary and Stitchery with all of the tables. I was at the restaurant yesterday, again, moving those heavy tables and chairs so that one of our residents who attends a meeting at the Chaparral could get her mobility scooter through. I've had days where I've had to move those heavy tables to get a wheelchair through and other things. And the restaurant waitress, employee who was assisting me in moving that, told me that only a few of those tables were chuck wagon. The others belong to activities, and the people that eat on Monday night move the tables around and the heaters, and people come in the evening and play cards and move the heaters, and it wasn't the chuck wagon's problem to have to move the tables, but if you're trying to get through the diners with a handicap, a walk or anything, they're telling you to go all the way around the patio and over that bridge. And if you go in a mobility scooter over that bridge, it's like, it's ridiculous. And now I understand from the employee that they're looking to rope off that whole sidewalk so that no one can go up and down from like where the bathrooms area are to the Chaparral. I'd like to know what's happening with that. It's become a problem.
Okay, so we've rearranged those tables this morning. As far as roping it off, if the chuck wagon, Chef Peters, gets a liquor license, we will have to rope off that patio area because that's part of his footprint for the chuck wagon. So we would have to put a little, like a picket fence or something in that area, because by law, we cannot have it opened up if he's serving alcohol.
you're under the Fair Housing Act, which requires that you are proactive in allowing access of the disabled and their disability devices, within reason, to get to and from the chaparral, to and from the back area. When you rope that off, will you still be able to get through there in a wheelchair, in a mobility cart, what have you? I mean, how much of that sidewalk are you taking away from the residents to provide a beer garden?
We'll have to wait and to see what's all entailed by the liquor commissioner, because we have to make sure again that if he's selling alcohol, we cannot allow that to be an open area. There is access going around the other way, like you said. Sometimes it's not always the best way to go, but that is another access way to get to the
It's
chaparral
very
roads.
difficult in a walker to have to go down the ramp, up the ramp, and if you're in a mobility device, to have to come back across the bridge. And there's been several days where the tables are blocking the bridge. We've moved tables off the bridge in order to allow mobility devices to get through. So it's like someone to monitor, put all that stuff back every day, the heaters, all that stuff is new this year, the heaters especially, and they're heavy to move. And so require the disabled to have to go all the way out and around through the patio, even if it's raining. But that down ramp and up ramp is difficult for the disabled. And if it's wet, it's also, but even for regular people to just block it off, or would it be open in the day, only blocked off at night? Because you have a lot of people trying to get musical equipment to and from the chaparral that they were told to go across the bridge and up and down the ramps. I don't think that it should be blocked off. I think he could do something up in the breezeway area, over by the pack area, for his garden. Yeah. Or activities can move their tables to the breezeway.
To the discussion, I like Darlene had said, I mean, we'll definitely have to cross that bridge with a fence someday down the road. I mean, we're not there. Cart before the horse in that situation, because there's a lot of discussion on liquor license at this very moment, but there's not anything in writing or anything that's set in stone at this point in time. So I think we could talk about that until we're red in the face. But the reality of accessibility in the time being right this moment through that facility, through that area, we have talked about on multiple occasions. And I think you're right. It is important that we, not only aesthetically it look nice, but, we do have some accessibility in these areas. So myself, Thelma, and one of the employees from the Chuck Wagon met this morning to discuss that area. I don't know if you had a chance to go by there yet this morning. Correct. So we've all had that to be a discussion on the same level to really maintain that standard. And I think that that's where we're at. It's just a matter of communications within parties of like, this is what we want it to be so that we can maintain this access throughout this facility. And Chef Peter understanding that, us understanding that, and all being together in cahoots with each other is important. So
Like 3.6. That we're dealing with language and before the board with section 3.6 that they put in with moving handicap devices and rolling them around. And I think that's being addressed on a different level.
Sure.
Any other questions before we close out? Okay, I want to thank you all for coming. It's kind of a small group today, but it's okay. We had a good, in my opinion, we had a good meeting. So we will see you hopefully at the board meeting next week, Thursday at 1 o'clock. Thank you.